Welcome to the show. I am James Swanwick, and today we're talking to a CPA, a golfer, and a boater. His name is John Warner. He's 43 from Boise, Idaho, and he is 90 days alcohol-free as we recorded this upcoming interview. Lovely to have you here on the show. I'm in Bali, Indonesia at the moment, returning to the US in maybe 3 weeks' time. Looking forward to that, getting back over stateside. I had a foot injury for the past week. I'm not sure what happened. I think I may have overused it. I did CrossFit. If anyone's familiar with CrossFit, you'll know how much of a exertion that can be on the body. I did CrossFit on a Saturday morning, and then I went off and played some paintball with three of my guy friends, which was quite taxing on the foot. And then in the afternoon, I went and played a 2-hour game of tennis. And I wonder why I woke up the next morning with a swollen left foot, which was swollen for about a week. So I was hobbling around Bali here for a week. But thankfully, my foot has recovered and I'm walking properly again, which is great news. The body knows how to heal itself, which is terrific. What else can I share with you? Project 90 is our experience that has been helping high performers now to get long-term power over their drinking. And in the case of John Warner's situation, John is the gentleman that you'll be hearing from in a couple of minutes. He estimated that he's probably generated about another $25,000 in business revenue in his CPA firm during the 90 days of being inside of our Project 90 experience. Just to be clear for the uninitiated, Project 90 is a 90-day quit drinking self-development program, which helps mostly high performers. So I would say, entrepreneurs, business professionals making, definitely 6 figures a year. And we help them to restore relationships with husbands and wives and children, to improve their health, to increase their productivity, to be better leaders in their business, to have more energy and clarity and focus, to sleep better. I own a sleep company, so sleep hygiene is a huge component of our program. We've been running it now since December 2018, and we get incredible results. In fact, we have an 87% plus success rate of folks getting to 90 consecutive days alcohol-free on their first attempt, and almost 100% success rate of getting folks to at least 90 days alcohol-free on no more than 3 attempts. There are a few who've fallen through the cracks since 2018, but only a few. I can count them on my left hand, how many people haven't made it. But we've had hundreds who have made it. In my opinion, this is only my opinion, and I'm happy to be proven wrong. In my opinion, this is your best shot at getting long-term power over alcohol. I have studied the results of Alcoholics Anonymous. It has less than a 7% reported success rate. I've studied the results of inpatient and outpatient treatment centers. Again, 7 or 8% success rate. So just to be clear, that means 92, 93% fail rate. And then I've studied a lot of neuroscience around willpower, and again, less than a 8%, somewhere around 7, 8% success rate, which means 93% fail rate. So willpower, I mean doing it on your own, trying to white knuckle it, I should say, deprivation, doing it solo. And you may have experienced how challenging it can feel doing it solo, because you might quit for a while and you go storming over the hill and you quit for a week or 2 weeks, maybe even a month, maybe even a couple months. But the slippery slope has been greased up. It's very, very slippery, and you return very quickly to the drinking habits that were trying to get you to get rid of those drinking habits in the first place. If that is you, and you consider yourself a high performer and you're a 6-figure earner, and you would like to finally get some help and have an 87% success rate of getting there on your first attempt, as opposed to all the other modalities that I've studied, which is a 7 or 8%, then I invite you to join us in Project 90. Now, the way that you can find some more details about that is to have a phone conversation with one of our coaches. And the way to schedule that conversation is to go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/schedule. Or if you're in the US on a mobile phone, you can text the word Project 90, that's PROJECT 90, just one word, text me at the number 44222. It'll only work if you're in the US on a mobile phone. And if you text me that, then I will text you back a calendar link. You'll click on that. You'll answer a few questions. It'll take you about 2, maybe 3 minutes. You'll pick a time that's convenient for you, and then one of our top certified coaches will phone you, and you and one of my coaches will have a no obligation conversation, and you'll just hopefully be very real with us and share where your drinking's at, why you want to stop drinking. Lots of people got different reasons. Some people want to do it because, they're irritable, they're not sleeping well, they've put on weight, they're unhappy. Some people do it for productivity reasons. They realize they're compromising their business prowess by being lethargic or tired. Other people, it's more serious. Like if they don't quit drinking, they will die, or at least they're heading towards an early grave. So everyone's got a different reason. Whatever your reason is, you'll share that with our coach. We'll put together a plan for you on that phone call to help you to quit and stay quit. It's a free call. The reason that it's free is that some of you will choose to join us in Project 90. Some of you won't, and that's okay, but you will get the plan, you'll get the process, and you'll be able to go and attempt it on your own. For those of you who don't want to attempt it on your own and you want to work with us, we'll lock arms and we will support and encourage and help you over at least 90 days to get this thing licked once and for all. So if that's you and you'd like to do that, again, alcoholfreelifestyle.com/schedule. We take only 12. We take around 12. I'm just going to say a dozen. I might even call it the dirty dozen. We only take 12 new clients per month. Okay, so I want to be clear on that. Our ability to serve our clients, sometimes I feel like it might be compromised if we take more than that. So we do put a limit on 12. So if you would like to be part of the dirty dozen, probably should come up with a new slogan than dirty dozen. It doesn't sound very good, does it? If you'd like to be part of the dozen, book a call and we'd be happy to help you. All right, let us get back into the upcoming interview with John Warner. Wonderful guy. Like I said before, he's a CPA. He's a partner in a CPA firm in Oregon and Idaho. He's a married father of 2. He has a 20-year-old and a 17-year-old. His wife's name is Katie, and I'll let him share the story, but he's a former college golfer, plays golf a lot, and was used to going to what they call the 19th hole. And the 19th hole is when you finish playing your 18 holes of golf, everyone goes to the bar, they pat each other on the back, they drink for 1 or 2 hours, and then they go home and they pass out or they eat bad food, and it just continues on from there, just lethargy and poor diet and nutrition. He also is a boater, so he goes away on weekends to a second home in a lake town nearby where they live and does boating and with family and friends. And he was sharing that he feels lazy and lethargic come Monday and Tuesday morning in his CPA work. And he joined us in Project 90. He quit drinking the day after Independence Day, actually, on July the 5th of 2021. And as we recorded this interview, which I'm about to hit play on, he is 90 days alcohol-free. So here he is. How did he do it? What did he learn? What's he going to do in the future? Here is John Warner, 43, from Boise, Idaho. So tell me about these weekends that you were taking to your second home in the lake town. And you mentioned that you were drinking quite a lot on those weekends away.
Yeah, I mean, we would go up there, and typically we'll go up on a Thursday in the summertime and go up after work on Thursday, and, I might have a beer on my way up, type of thing. And just to wind down, it's about a 2-hour drive. And so it just would start on Thursday afternoon. And I typically would just, have a few beers Thursday night, and then maybe 6 to 12 beers a day on Friday and Saturday. If I wasn't working, I'd be on the dock or maybe doing a project, but always kind of had a beer in my hand. And at night, we like to take cruises. So we'd have a couple more beers on the cruise, and just kind of, it wasn't like it was out of control and we're just raging, but it was just kind of constantly in my hand. And by the time Sunday came around, I was like, man, I need a beer just to feel better. And so Sunday, just kind of nurse a couple beers in the morning, before we head out of town. And get you going again, and feel obviously pretty good on the way home. And then Monday came around and reality check, and you've got a mile long list of to-dos at work, and you're just not feeling good. So that cycle repeated itself for a long time. And I was just kind of ready to make a change and wanted to get back into a little better shape, get back into the gym, feel more organized at work, just be a better boss, like all these things. It would trickle in. It wasn't like I was bad, but I think when I would listen to you when you were kind of talking about the program, I remember you just saying, hey, would you, if you're operating at a 5 or 6 out of 10, what would it feel like to be a 8, 9, 10 out of 10? And I just don't think I felt like that in 20 years because it's been this slow bleed of, and it's not like I was in the gutter. I mean, these were fun events and everyone was doing it. And I don't look down on anyone that drinks. It's just, and I don't know if this is forever for me, but it's like I needed to take a break and just kind of reset.
Yeah. 6 to 12 beers. I mean, that's a couple of 6-packs or half a carton, as that we would say it in Australia. I remember growing up when I was, rooming with a few other people in my early 20s, people would yell out like, "Whose carton is it?" As if to say who had to go to the liquor store and buy the carton. 24 beers in a carton. So you're knocking back 6 to 12. That's not nothing. And especially if I don't know if were you driving the boat? Were you the skipper?
I mean, yeah, occasionally, most of the time. Yeah. I mean, it was just, I never felt drunk or intoxicated, but you're obviously, I'm lucky in the fact that I was never tested, right? I mean, I obviously could hold it well. It was over a really long period of time because it wasn't like I would go drink 10 beers in 2 hours. It was just start at, hey, it's lunchtime or even in the AM before lunch, let's crack a beer and put some orange juice in it and away we go. So, you're drinking over the course of 10 hours a day. It's not that hard to have a beer an hour and just kind of keep this even keel. And when you're in this kind of vacation mode around a lake, on a dock, on a boat, on the golf course, it's easy to just sip on those all day long.
Who were you going on these trips with on the weekend?
It'd be, I'd meet friends up there, and it was typically my wife and kids, and maybe some of our family, my parents, my wife's parents, nieces, nephews. And just meeting. I've got golf is my main hobby. So I play a lot of golf, and on the golf course and in that environment, there's a lot of drinking that goes on. And it's just been part of me since I've been a kid. I was always around that environment. So it's very normal for me to be in a bar or, they call it the 19th hole here in the United States. So you go after the round and, you might play golf for 4 hours. You might be in the bar for another 4. And my marriage, along 10 years ago, it certainly challenged my marriage when we had younger kids. And, so, yeah, I mean, it's been this lingering, not necessarily a huge problem, but a problem. And it's just something that I never felt like I was an alcoholic because I was pretty successful and raised a family. Never, my wife and I have been married for 20 years. And it's caused a couple blips on the radar along the way, but nothing huge. But so I wasn't at a place where I'm like, man, this is just ruining my life. And that's why when I saw your program, I'm like, that sounds like something I want to be a part of. It sounds like a lot of like-minded people that are looking to just better themselves, to improve their business, to improve themselves physically and mentally. And that's what I was looking for. And it's exactly what it provided.
Yeah. So how long had you had those kind of drinking habits for? I mean, you're 43, about to be 44. Have you been drinking since, your teen years? So 20-something years, 25, 26 years maybe, yeah. So had you had similar drinking habits for all of that time, and then suddenly, bang, now you're 90 days alcohol free, and so that's like been the that you've gone, or have you gone a stretch previously?
Yeah, I can think back, and the group of friends I hung out with in high school, we were good kids, but we did drink beer, and that started probably when I was 16, 17, and it certainly wasn't on a daily basis, but on the weekends, if we could get our hands on it, we were drinking. And then in college, especially we all had fake IDs, so we could go get our hands on some beers, and it was more 3 to 4 days a week in college, I would say. So it's been a long time. And yeah, so I remember a couple stints. So we have a busy season in my line of work, and I went like 3.5 months alcohol free, probably 5 years ago. And I remember I felt fantastic, but I just knew that when that date hit, the deadline date for tax returns in the US is April 15th. Of course I went out that night and got myself, pretty drunk and didn't feel good and got sick. And then it just kind of went back to my old ways. So, but I didn't have a support system. I wasn't really learning anything. I just kind of gritted my teeth and got through it.
Yeah. So what do you feel shifted this time? I mean, I get your motivation for wanting to go at least 90 days alcohol-free this time, and you joined us in our Project 90 experience, and you got to 90 days alcohol-free. So I get the motivation. What do you think you learned inside of that experience, or how has your mind rewired around alcohol that is now giving you this, what I understand is you have this long-term power over your drinking habits now? You did mention that it's possible you may drink again, maybe on occasion, but I'm going to assume that you feel like you've got power over alcohol now rather than alcohol having power over you. So what was the shift? What did you learn? What's been the breakthrough for you?
I was struggling the most with was just the environments that I was a part of. I didn't know how to say no, or I didn't know how to engage in those environments without kind of being, and you've got some great videos and some great takes on this, where you come in and it's like, oh, I'm not drinking. I can't drink. And you're down and out, and you're like, hey, it's okay. Like, you can still have fun without alcohol. It's okay. Like, go in there confident, and no one really cares. They're going to do their thing. You're not judging them. You're not pushing this on anybody. Just go in there and say you're not drinking. And the first couple weeks or 3 weeks, I wanted to challenge myself to do this in a time period where I was going to be in a lot of those situations, just because I would have the backing and the support to get through them. I think I can do it on my own, and when we're not in these environments, but that was going to be the hardest part. I mean, I had golf tournaments, probably 4 or 5 different tournaments in the last 90 days. And those are always big drinking engagements, I guess you could say. I think we had some weddings and just barbecues and people up at the lake. And so it was just one thing after another every weekend. It was very helpful to get on the calls and just express that to the group. And everyone encouraged, hey, it's okay, keep it up. And but I do remember the first 2-3 weeks, that was brutal. And it was that breakthrough, I think, alone, and learning how to deal with that situation. No one cares that you're not drinking. I mean, if you say it in a way like, and then you just have fun in the moment. Like, I was so much more present, was so much more engaged, and I remember everything. So like, all of these experiences were great. And I think in my head, I thought I would be really losing out and missing out. And that's not the case.
The 19th hole is what golfers refer to as going into the bar after a round of golf and drinking and socializing, correct?
Right.
Yeah. So did you change your 19th hole, or did you eliminate the 19th hole?
I changed it and have dramatically eliminated most of it. So in, because typically after a round, I mean, we've been betting or whatever, and so we go in there to settle up our bets and just talk about the round. It's great. I mean, network. A lot of the people I play golf with, we usually play 1 or 2 days a week, all in the same day. So there's multiple groups of guys playing that it's good to go in and see everybody and say hello. But no, I'll go in, and we have at the club, they have a Heineken Zero. So I'll just order one of those and sip on it. I mean, it's not very good after you've had one. It's not like you sit there and have 10. But
it's not a great promotion for Heineken 0.0 alcohol-free beer.
Well, I mean, it's
not very
okay.
good.
It's just like anything else. I mean, how many, if there's no booze in it, how many things would you drink 10 of? You wouldn't.
I get it. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, but it's kind of the same feeling. You go in, I mean, you're just doesn't get as wild. The stories that start come out after a half hour or one Heineken Zero, I don't really care to hear or be part of. And so it's time to go, and there's other things to do, and I still have energy, and I'm not buzzed or that feeling of being kind of buzzed and high a little bit, I guess, off of beer. I do miss that, but I miss it. Just that first initial beer or two. Right. But then that can lead to just this, I'd come home, and then I'd be at the course for 4 hours, the bar for 2, and then I'd be exhausted and come home and take a nap, wake up, eat like crap, and probably not sleep good, wake up, feel like crap the next day. I mean, you're giving up so much. It's not worth it.
So much. And it's like what you referred to at the beginning, which is it's a slow bleed.
Mm-hmm.
It's a slow bleed. And it just accumulates in your health.
And there's parts that I'm not going to deny that, some of those things were fun and are fun, but you can still have fun. Like, I think that's what I really, really needed to hear, is like, life doesn't end just because you can't have a couple beers with the guys or on the course. Like, you can do everything that you were doing before, have just as much fun, and then still have enough energy and mental capacity to go work out after all these things. Where if I went to play golf in the afternoon, I mean, you can just write me off in the past. I mean, my day was over. And now if I go play and want to come home, like yesterday, the weather was great. So we're trying to get in one, last couple rounds in the fall here before the snow flies. It was 80 degrees, just beautiful. I'm like, let's go play. Went out, played golf at 11, got home at 3, worked for a couple hours, had dinner, came back in here, did a little more work. So some of those things that you talked about, I couldn't even put a number on it, but like the number of hours that we bill our time in this business. So it would be interesting for me to go back and look at my billable hours the last couple summers versus the last 90 days, same time, because my job hasn't changed at all. And I haven't done that, but I'm going to, because it'll be interesting.
What do you anticipate it might be? Best educated guess now.
15% at, a couple $100 an hour, 15. So an extra, maybe, I don't know, 10 hours a week, maybe.
So $2,000 a week, $8,000 a month in revenue. So it's possible. You haven't confirmed it yet, but it's possible that you've generated an additional $25,000 more or less in revenue in the business in 3 months. Is that right?
Very possibly. Yeah. And just so much more clear headed. I mean, my work is better for my clients. I'm more efficient. I'm more focused. So it's just, it's a win-win for the clients too.
And then that will increase trust and connection with the clients, which will ultimately lead to them coming back to you for more, to give you more business. So that'll be a little bit more challenging to track, but maybe there will become anecdotal evidence over time where clients who you've served in these past 90 days and who you're about to serve in the coming months and years will feel that the quality of your work is of such a standard that they just keep coming back, that they refer you to someone else, that you generate new business. So even if you went back to your normal drinking ways today, doesn't sound like you're going to, but just to say you did, the cumulative effect of the past 90 days of you being alcohol free, there's 25 grand we think in 90 days of additional business, but that could generate another 50 over the next 6 months, possibly, just because of the goodwill that's been created and the high caliber of your work in terms of referrals or return business. So that's a 75K swing, possibly. Does that add up to you?
Yeah, I mean, our hourly rates are high, but most of the clients we serve, I mean, they really need our service, and there is a lot of work out there to be done. There's a lot of CPAs that are retiring out of the business. There's a huge opportunity if I can train staff well, like young staff, and bring them up. And that's something I just have not had the energy to do. And I feel like now I do. I could, and if you train a staff and then multiply the staff time out that you can leverage, that's where you can really make, and I'm not in it I didn't do this to make more money, but I can see that if I can get myself in a position where I could train a few people, that number you said would multiply exponentially.
Yeah. And of course, to train new people, you've got to be the best leader that you can be. If you're hungover, or maybe not hungover on a Monday, but if you're tired and foggy and irritable because of 3-day weekends of drinking 6 to 12 beers on the lake each weekend, you're not going to show up as the best leader you can be, which is going to compromise the quality of the staff that you train, if you train them at all, which is then going to, again, be a slow bleed within your organization.
Yeah, you're dead on. I mean, just having the energy and the focus to train someone it's harder than doing the work, in my opinion, being a good leader and trainer. And that's something like, if I were hungover, I could probably go in and do some projects pretty well, as long as I had my pot of coffee and shut my door and was comfortable and no one was bothering me. But another thing that you just said that I've noticed a ton is I'm not irritable. Very hard to rattle me now, where before I would say that was not the case. And like, a client would call at the wrong time and I'd be pissed, or an email would come in and you're frustrated, and it's just not a big deal. You just deal with it,
And if you're not irritable anymore, or even on rare occasions, how does that impact your work? How does it impact your relationship with your wife, maybe your daughters? What impact does you not being irritable have on family life? Let's call it family life.
Oh, it's huge. I think it impacts every area of family life. I mean, there's times when I was just a jerk. I'd come home and after a long day, and I still have long days, but I'm not tired. I can go work 10, 14 hours a day if I have to. And you wake up in the morning, you're like, here's what I have to do. And, we were on a call a couple of days ago, and I'm blocking out time at lunch. I'm going and working out for an hour, putting in a 12, 13 hour day. And I come home and I've got energy, and I'm not just a jerk to, kicking the dog. And not that I did that, but you just come home and I'd just be worn out and grumpy, and, I'd grab 3 or 4 beers probably and watch TV and not really say much to anybody, and not be engaged, and just, oh, poor me. I've had a long day, and I haven't done that in 90 days. I mean, and I have a lot of energy. It's not like you get this magic energy with this program. I feel like it's a slow bleed the opposite way. it wasn't real noticeable. And I think that you were so focused on, gosh, this is going to be hard. And how am I going to deal with this situation? And then kind of after 40, 50, 60 days, I was like, man, what do I want to do? Like, none of this is all that hard anymore. I'm not thinking about having a beer. I'm not worried about the golf tournament I have coming up and how I'm going to get through that situation. So you're just like, well, what do I want to do now? I don't know. So several dinner parties and events downtown, where you're just involved in it. It's just so easy after you've done it a few times. And hearing your stories about going to some of these ESPN functions, Academy Awards, interviewing people is very helpful. I mean, you're in these situations all the time.
Yeah, I went to the Playboy Mansion 3 times, and I got to interview Hugh Hefner, which was amazing. In another life, I was a journalist, interviewer of celebrities. I lived in Hollywood, California for a number of years. I remember the last time I went to the Playboy Mansion, and the Playboy Mansion is kind of like the most hedonistic place, at least in the minds of most people in the world, right? And people always think like, oh, there must be orgies happening in the grotto, and there's like these buxom women, and Hugh Hefner's walking around in his bathrobe, or his velvet bathrobe, and all that kind of stuff. And you know what? It's all true. It is all true. I saw it all. I saw all of that kind of stuff going on. I did. And open bar, right? Open bar. Whatever, vodka, whiskey, beer, shots, tequila, anything. Just like open bar. Drink whatever you want. And I didn't drink. And I had a wonderful time. Now, just to be clear, I did not go in the grotto. I did observe the grotto. I didn't participate in what was going on in the grotto. I observed. But yeah, I mean, I was going up there ordering soda water, ice, and a piece of lime. And people were just like, most people would look at that and go, are you nuts? What are you talking about? Like, you go crazy in that place. If you're especially if you're a red-blooded male, right? And you're in there, you're just like, let's go crazy.
Right.
Shots. Can you believe we're in the Playboy Mansion?
But then you don't remember any of it. I mean, what's the point of it?
Yeah.
I did notice that in the situations, the hardest part was like my really close group of guy friends that we play golf with, and they just know my habits and routines very well. That was harder than being in a bigger setting to me, because I can go grab a soda water and a lime, and it's not a big deal. But in front of your friends, when you're sitting around, and they're all over in beers, and you're just like, hey, Heineken Zero or soda water, they all look at you. And so those were the things I had more anxiety about than being in a bigger setting where I can, it's just no one's even going to really know.
Yeah. Let me ask you, kind of want to just touch on the golf thing again and the 19th hole. Do you feel now that your enjoyment of 19th hole activities at the bar after a game, after a round, I should say, is heightened? Like, is it more enjoyable? Is it less enjoyable? Are you just neutral about it? But this time, like you do it alcohol free? Like, I'm just curious what your perception was.
Say it's just different. So I'm probably neutral about it. I mean, you get in there and, your close friends are going to kind of heckle them and go over the round and settle up the bets and have a drink and kind of tell a joke or two and listen to some stories. And then you leave. And before it was that times, 3 hours, and it just got a little off the wall. And it wasn't like that all the time. I mean, that's blowing it out of proportion, but there were definite days where you sit in there and have 4, 5, 6 beers after a round of golf, and that takes some time, and you're pretty drunk by the time you leave, and you've had them on the course as well. And so that was interesting to me as well, because I haven't, the group I run around with and play with were pretty competitive, and I was a college golfer. So I played at a higher level than probably most folks. And so, but I hadn't played golf sober like dead sober since college, really.
Wow.
It was a whole new experience.
Yeah.
Because
big shift.
Golf, like
big
if
shift.
you have tension or your mind is you're thinking negative, you've probably played or sports similar to that, I'm sure, but golf in particular is extremely mental, and tension's a killer. And so I would use it to relieve some tension. Before I'd even tee off, I'd probably have a beer or two just to take tension out of my arms, hands, and kind of loosen my mind. And so I played terrible the first few times I played, but it's getting better. But that's going to take some time. And that was kind of hard to deal with a little bit.
So the worst thing about giving up alcohol is that your handicap gets worse, goes up. Is that right?
It went up a shot or two, but it's down now, back to where it should be.
That's like the worst advertisement for quitting drinking for golfers. It's like, if you quit drinking, your game will.
Yeah, don't say that.
Yeah.
But no, it's better. I mean, putting, chipping, some of the short game stuff. Tension's a killer, and mentally, if you're thinking too much or negatively, it can, it can hurt. But I think at the end of the day, your senses are heightened by not drinking, so it's gonna get even better. And now I'm back down to playing as well as I ever have.
There you go.
Okay, so I mean, it's all good. It took some time though. Those first few rounds and first couple tournaments, it was a challenge.
Mm. May I ask your wife's name?
Katie.
Tell me, what has Katie communicated to you that she has noticed in you in the 90 days? What conversations have you had about your experience being 90 days alcohol free?
She was not, she wasn't negative about it. She wasn't positive about it, about the program. I just think that sometimes she's nervous that it'll change me. And, we love each other. We're great with marriage and relationships. So I think maybe part of her being not positive about it at the beginning, or just even really encouraging, just like, well, why, why are you doing that? She was just inquisitive. I think she just kind of gets nervous. She doesn't like change. So I think she felt like maybe that would change my personality a lot. And I think that I've just tried to do a lot of the same things that we've always done. And, she'll have a drink. She's the type where she can have 2 or 3 drinks once a week or once a month. I mean, it doesn't matter to her, but when she goes out, she enjoys to have a couple, and it loosens her up. And I think she misses me being a part of that, but I've just tried to be myself as much as I can and loosen those environments, and not, because I'm, by nature and by what I do for a living, I'm kind of in boxes and serious. And so it's hard for me to really loosen up. Not hard, but it's like, that's just not as natural for me as being serious and business minded and, thinking critically. And so I think sometimes when I have beers, it brings out a side of me she doesn't see. And it's, just a little more playful and joking. And so I think maybe she's missing that some.
And how does that make you feel?
I don't know. I mean, it's who I am. I think it'll get better as it goes, and I'll just keep working on it. I mean, she certainly is not negative at all, but that's just by knowing her, that's kind of what I feel is maybe where she's not like over the moon, because it's like, we have a great life. We, a great marriage. And also she has not, I haven't gone through like a busy season. And before, like when I'd come home, like the one thing that would kind of bring me down and off of like a lot of where I would be pretty tense and wound up was I would have a couple beers and it would just kind of bring me down. So I think she's a little bit nervous that going into busy season, which would be more like February through April, where it's just basically working 7 days a week, 10, 12 plus hours a day. She's probably kind of nervous that I won't have that crutch. And so if she sees me get through that, maybe way better now, because I'm not waking up feeling like crap, then maybe she'll feel differently.
A lot of people who go through our Project 90 experience share that in the beginning or during the process, while it gets easier to be alcohol free, the additional clarity and focus that's generated from being alcohol free shines a light on a lot of, let's call them, troublesome things that are going on in their life. A lot of awkward conversations they've been avoiding for many months or many years, which now they get to face and get to have. For example, we've had clients who've gone through Project 90 who during the 90 days have got very clear that they want a divorce from their partner. And during the process, we've had clients who've asked for a divorce and they've agreed to get a divorce. And on those occasions, it's felt really troublesome for them as they go into it. But then I see them, and you've probably witnessed at least one of them, share in a couple of days afterwards that it was the biggest breakthrough of his or her life. I'll keep that person's gender out of it just to try and protect their privacy. But the experience that they shared was that it was profound, and they felt incredibly euphoric about the choice, like a whole weight had been lifted off their shoulders. So I'm not. This is not to do with your marriage. This is to do with was there something profound that happened for you in terms of you became aware of something, you were able to have a conversation that maybe you'd been resisting. You improved your communication skills in general. You were more forthcoming. Maybe you didn't withhold as much. Like, was there something that kind of, with this clarity, that shone a light on something that you got to dramatically shift in your life?
I wouldn't say that there's been anything dramatic. I would just say everything's improved. Nothing dramatic. I have all the things you mentioned. I feel like I've worked on in the past, trying to be a better communicator, not shying away from difficult conversations. Our marriage, like I said, we have had some issues 7-8 years into our marriage that weren't necessarily related to alcohol, but we've worked through those and we've put in the work. So I wouldn't say anything dramatic. I would just say that it's almost going back to the analogy of where was I? Maybe 5, 6, 7 on any given day. Now, maybe it's 8 or 9 in those categories. Maybe I'll have that conversation quicker, or, I won't be quite as emotional about things and be more clear-headed, but I wouldn't say it's dramatic for me.
Got it. And what is your plan with your drinking habits now? You mentioned that it may not be forever. So can you just clarify that? Like, what's your intention now? And, maybe in the short term, and what's your intention for the long term?
Yeah, I just don't see any benefit to like firing up drinking beers again. So that's kind of where I'm going to end it. I don't really want to say, oh, I'm never going to drink again, because, maybe with my dad, if I'm in the woods or something and we want to have a couple beers, I'll have it. I don't care. It's not, but I feel like I've experienced enough of the benefit that I'd be foolish to do it to the extent that I was drinking before. Just absolutely foolish to do it. And, so that's kind of where I'm at mentally right now with it. I just don't see any benefit. I haven't, in my mind mentally, I have, and having that meeting with you the other day again was good, because you were challenging us to not say my plan, or I think, or I might. You were kind of bullying us around and not say those type of words and just, own it. And so I haven't committed to anything, but what I have been thinking about is like, hey, this was a quarter of a year. Why not just go a year and see if what I felt after, say, 30 days compared to 90, which 90 compared to 30, I feel a lot better, even going that extra 2/3. Like, will that extrapolate? If I go a year, will I feel, 3/4 better than I feel now? I don't know, unless I do it.
Yeah. It's interesting. When I first stopped drinking alcohol, I thought I was going to go 30 days. And I got to 30 and I thought, this feels pretty good. I'll just see if I can go 35. I'm like, no, I'll just go to 40. Then I just kept pushing it. I'll go to 50. And then I was like, I'll go 3 months. And I just kept pushing it out, pushing out, pushing out. So I didn't set the intention that I was done forever. I just set the intention that I was done for 30 days. And a year later, like on the year anniversary, I was back at the very same place where I had quit a year before, which was in Austin, Texas. There was a bar called the Luster Pearl Bar in Rainey Street. It's been knocked down now, so it's not actually there anymore. But I walked in and I ordered a Budweiser. Being Australian, I just loved ordering Bud because it was symbolic of being in the United States. It was like, I want to walk into an American bar and order a Bud. And I put the Bud to my mouth, or just before my mouth, and I smelt it. And to be fair, it did smell good, cold beer. But right at the last moment, I had this thought, or these thoughts come into my mind, which was, well, hang on. In 1 year since you've been alcohol-free, you've lost 20, 25 pounds. You've landed your dream job hosting a TV show on SportsCenter, on ESPN. Your relationships are better. You've generated more income for yourself. You're better looking. At least I perceived myself to be better looking because I dropped 20, 25 pounds and all the toxins had been removed from my skin. And I just looked in the mirror and I went, yeah, that's the way nature intended me to look. And all of those things cumulatively was enough for me to put the beer down, and I actually got the barman's attention, and I said, actually, I've changed my mind. I still paid for the beer, obviously, but give me a soda water ice and a piece of lime and said, you can throw that out. And that's what happened. And I haven't picked up a drink with the intention of drinking it since. And that was I quit 2010, and that 1 year anniversary, what would have been 1 year anniversary, was 2011. So still alcohol-free, and I still don't say I'll never drink again. I've never declared that I'll never drink again. I don't even have to declare it because I don't even really think about it except when I'm, obviously coaching or training our clients. But I just go through my life not even thinking, am I going to drink? Am I not going to drink? I'm just like, I feel like most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, I'm operating at an 8 or 9 out of 10. Some of the time, I get depressed, I get sad, I feel isolated or lonely sometimes. I have the human experience. But most of the time, I'm feeling like I'm operating at an 8 or 9 out of 10 in work, health, relationships, connection, joy, all that kind of stuff. So that was my little spiel. As it relates to you, John, maybe I would just invite you. It's like, I think it's great that you're not committing to, I'm never going to drink again. You don't need to, right? Just commit to, I love being alcohol-free. It's incredible, and I'm going to continue to be alcohol-free. And that's it. Because the moment we put this pressure on ourselves, like, I'm not going to do it for you, blah, 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 then it can sometimes get to like a prison. If you declare, I'm never going to drink again, well, you're 43. Let's just say you're going to kick the bucket in your 90s, 93. That's about 50 years you got to fulfill on that commitment. I don't know whether you want to be making a 50-year commitment, John.
Well, that's kind of how I feel about it too. I don't see any benefit to it at this point at all, and that's just kind of where I'm going to leave it. I'm interested to see if you go a full year, and maybe in that year I might have a couple of beers with my dad or something, because he likes to have a beer here and there. Okay,
yeah.
And the next day, it's not like I'm going to. I don't know that. I don't even want to really think about that. I mean, I think my dad's proud of me. I've told him, he's like, oh, that's great. And I thought that might be, he's cool with whatever. He's a great guy. And I've had, one of my best friends, he quit drinking like 10 years ago and he went into AA, and it totally changed him in a lot of ways. And so I've witnessed that, and none of us really thought he had a drinking problem, but we weren't around him all the time, and we'd all graduated college and moved on, and he was kind of stuck. He was traveling, sales, and no one really knew that he was drinking as much as he was. And so that was an interesting thing to watch and go through, and he's handled it really, really well. And talk about a guy that has, his life has went from, what he was doing 10 years ago to now is amazing. And the amount of, because I'm a tax guy and I see people's income levels where he was then versus now, it's unbelievable. And it's just eliminating that from his life is by far the biggest change. So that was cool to see. And you know, as we talk about this and the group sessions and the calls and on your videos, I mean, financially is not the motivation, but man, it's a result for a lot, you know, it's definitely a result for people.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, John, congratulations on completing your 90-day experience inside of Project 90. You gave up, or you quit the day after the 4th of July on Independence Day 2021. So July 5th was your start date. You're now 90 days alcohol-free. Congratulations. I also want to thank you for being so supportive of other members inside of our Project 90 experience, and for sharing and for opening up, and for allowing yourself to be coached, and for coaching others just by sharing your experience. So I want to acknowledge you, and I want to thank you, sir.
Well, thank you, James. I want to acknowledge you. You've developed a great program. You know, it's helped a lot of people, just in the people that I've met. It's amazing to see them, you know, day 1 to day 10 to day 30 to day 50. You know, it's just amazing. That's just a small group of people that I was interacting with. And I don't know how long this program has been going on, but I think 5-10 years. How long have you been doing this?
Well, I've been coaching people on quitting drinking since 2015. Project 90 in its current form began December 2018.
Yeah. Well, I just can't. I mean, yeah, thank you, James. Don't thank me. So I appreciate it.
You're so welcome. John Werner, 43, from Boise, Idaho. Thank you so much for your time. And to you, the listener, thank you for listening. And we will catch you on the next one. See you. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I want to load you up with some free stuff. If you look in the show description, there's a link there to get my guide, which is the Alcohol Freedom Formula Guide. And in that guide, I will walk you through the process and system for successfully reducing or quitting alcohol. It's the same system and process that I give to my clients inside of Project 90. And if you would like to get your hands on that guide, you can click the link in the description part of this episode, or you can go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/guide. Likewise, if you would like to be considered for Project 90 to join our community and get some accountability, some coaching, and have fun, achieve some goals over at least 90 days with our help and support, then you're invited to schedule a complimentary coaching call with one of my coaches. You can do that by clicking the link in the show description or going to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/schedule. Now, Project 90 is for over 30s only, and it's really for people who are ready to get long-term power over alcohol. You don't have to quit forever, but you will have to quit for at least 90 days with our support. Just a reminder, 95% of my content is free and plastered all over the internet. If you just Google James Swanwick and the word alcohol, you'll find that. For those of you who want additional support, if you want coaching, fun, accountability, if you realize that you can't do this on your own or you just plain don't want to, then I invite you to schedule that call and we can talk about if Project 90 is for you. If you would like to take some of my supplements, swanvitality.com is the website. I'll put a link in the show notes as well. I have a liver support product called Loving Liver, which I designed and specially formulated to help remove toxins from your liver after years of alcohol consumption. Again, there's a link in the show description. We've also got a green powder there, which turns into a green juice filled with amazing ingredients to support you and give you energy throughout the day. And there's also a magnesium product, which I take every night to help me prepare for sleep and to sleep through the night. So there's a few options there. Lastly, if this episode or the show in general has helped you or supported you in any way, I would so appreciate it if you would write a review. It really does help the show climb the rankings and expose the show to people who don't yet know about us. So if this show has benefited you in any way and you feel compelled to pay it forward, just writing a short little review, hopefully a nice one, will be so appreciated, and I will thank you immensely.
Lastly, if you'd like to talk to me about anything at all, feel free to send me an email at james@alcoholfreelifestyle.com. I do read and respond to every email. And you can also follow me on Instagram at @JamesSwanwick. Send me a message there. And I look forward to connecting with